Well, good morning and welcome to day 3 of Uncharted, our Bible reading plan through the book of Esther. Today's reading is Esther chapter 2, verses 1 through 14. If you have not already, stop this video right now and go read it. Go read it in your Bible, go read it online. There's a lot of important details to the story that unfold today. Today is the day where we meet our unlikely hero, Esther. So you've read it once now, I'm assuming. What I want you to do is go back and read it again, and this time underline any of the details that you find about Esther. Here's what I found. First, she's young. She's a young girl, and she's living in the care of a distant cousin because she's an orphan. So she's young, she's an orphan, she's a Jew living in exile far from her homeland, and we can assume that she lost both of her parents in the exile, in the Babylonian siege of Jerusalem. So there's a lot of pain and heartache already written into her story. The next thing we know is she's carted away on this sort of empire-wide tour of people looking for beautiful young women to satisfy the king, primarily sexually. So she's taken in to be, honestly, kind of a sex slave, a sex worker in this harem of hundreds of other women. We learn that she wins favor in the eyes of the king's eunuch and in all who see her. We'll find out later she wins favor of the king. But this is a girl who is powerless. She has loss and pain and really not a lot of hope for a life of her own. Any girl kind of in that ancient world would not have had a hope for an independent story to pursue her own dreams, much less a young woman living in exile with no guardians or protectors besides a distant cousin. So here's my reflection as I step back from the text. Esther has a long list of things that might disqualify her from being important. We've already talked about it. She's young. She's one of the oppressed people in the empire. She has no parents. She's kind of a nothing in the empire. And yet we know in this moment that she's the one God will use to save his people. And that's an encouragement to me because I think each of us has a list of things that we think would disqualify us from God working in our lives. And my word to you this morning is don't write yourself off. What are the things that you might say, well, I'm just a blank. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm just a high school student. I'm just a coach. I'm just a businesswoman. I'm just a mid-level manager. What are those I'm just a blanks? Because I think that those things we assume will disqualify us are actually the things God uses in our story that qualify us for his work in the world. So be on the lookout today for what are the things you assume are your liabilities, and then ask God to use those, because that's exactly what he does for Esther. And remember, this is the book where we don't see God written or spoken anywhere. We never are told, and God did this, and God said that. But when we step back, we can see God's hand moving through the mysteries of Esther's story, through the mystery of what makes her vulnerable and unqualified for anything important. And the same is true in our lives if we offer them to him. You just may not see it right now. You may not see it for a long time, but we can be confident that God's hand is at work, especially when we're surrendered to him.